Hey everyone, welcome to Singularity Computers Client Build 4. Now I'm really excited about this one because it's an extremely high-end water-cooled build. I'm going to be water cooling the CPU and both of the graphics cards. I also have some parts in here that I'm using for the very first time, in particular the case and both of the graphics cards. Okay, I'll get straight into it and start showing you the hardware. So this will be in my usual format. I'll first of all give you a brief overview of all of the parts that I'm going to be using. I'll then give you a closer, more detailed look at the parts and link you off to any reviews that I'm going to be doing on these parts. I'll then start the construction of the build and show you as much of the process as I can. Although something that I want to tell you about this build and also future client builds, during client builds I just don't have the time to film all of the process, so I'll still show you some of the process, but I won't be able to show you as much of it as I have been, in some of the other builds that I've been doing lately, just because I'm on a tight schedule and I need to get this to the client ASAP. So yeah, once I've completed the construction, we'll have a good look at the finished product and I'll then go over the test results, performance and temperature results. Okay, so I'll start with the most exciting part of the build. That is the dual 7970s from HIS. These are reference cards. They're going to be going into the system in Crossfire X, and not only that, they're going to be water cooled with EK water blocks. I'm going to be putting Nickel Plexi water blocks on the CPU and both the graphics cards to match. Okay, the motherboard that I'm using in the build is the Asus Rampage 4 Formula. I have a review on this motherboard on my channel. Click on the link on the screen to check that out. I also have a review on the Asus Rampage 4 Extreme, so you can check out both of those reviews to see the differences between the two motherboards. The Rampage 4 Extreme is more for overclocking, whereas the Rampage 4 Formula is more for gaming. And that's why I chose the Rampage 4 Formula over the Extreme, because this system is pretty much going to be purely a gaming system. The CPU that I'm using in the build is the Intel Core i7-3930K. Next to that you can see the operating system drive. It's a Corsair Force 3 GT 60GB SSD. The memory that I'm using in the build is a 16GB kit of Corsair Vengeance DDR3. It's the high profile in black. Next to that you can see the CPU water block. It's an EK Supreme HF Nickel Plexi. As you can see, it has the new EN nickel plating, which is EK's fixed nickel plating, because a little while back they did have some problems with corrosion of their nickel plating. So yeah, when you see the EN badge on their packaging, you know that it's the new fixed nickel plating and that you're not going to have any problems with corrosion. Down here on the right hand side you can see two more water blocks from EK. These are the 7970 water blocks. I'll be pulling all this out of the box soon and giving you a good look at it. Okay, down here you can see a bunch of behind the scenes parts. There's actually a lot more of these that I haven't shown here. You'll be seeing these as I go. They're just fittings and other bits and pieces like cable extensions and things like that. Yeah, I'll be showing you those during the build. But anyway, here I have some coolants VL4N quick disconnects. There's two of them. I have some fan grills and dust filters. Now here I have some Bitphoenix Spectra Pro 140mm fans. These are actually not the fans I'm going to be using in the build, and I had to change the fans because I decided to change the radiator configuration. I've got some noise blocker, either PK2 or PK3s, I'm not sure which ones I settled on, but they'll be arriving in the next few days. On the left hand side here I have the tubing that I'm going to be using in the build. It's Tygon Clear 1/2 inch tubing. It's actually my favourite tubing. You can see just there the power supply that I'm using in the build is a Corsair HX 1050. So that's certainly going to be enough to power all of this hardware. Okay, on the far left I have, starting from the bottom, a Silverstone hard drive cage which converts 3 5.25 inch bays to 3 3.5 inch bays. And this is because, well, the case that I'm using is actually the Silverstone Temjin TJ11 and it's hidden behind all the hardware there. I have a review on this case and you really need to check out the review, because I say this a lot but I don't like to cover things twice because I don't want to bore you guys, so I'm not going to go over all the details of the case in this video. I will give you a bit of a look around and go over some basic specs. But this is an incredible case, and if you want to know all about it, then check out the review. I'll put a link on the screen. Yeah, it's really worth having a look at the review because this case has actually reached my top favorite cases list. I really like this case, particularly as a case for a high-end water-cooled system like this. It's just ideal. But anyway, the radiators go into the bottom compartment, and by default the hard drive cages are in the bottom compartment. So if you're going to build a water cooling system into this case, you have to scrap the hard drive cages, and therefore I got a hard drive cage that could fit into the 5.25 inch bays because I've got a whole bunch of free 5.25 inch bays. Next to that I have some XSPC 120mm radiator mounts. Now I'm not sure if I'll be using these or not because I still haven't confirmed how I will be mounting the radiator into the bottom compartment of this case. This case is designed for water cooling, but it doesn't come with any accessories to mount radiators into the bottom compartment. So you kind of have to either mod the case or come up with your own ideas, and this so far is the best idea that I have. It looks like it's going to work pretty well. This is actually the 120mm version. I do have the 140mm version coming, so I'll either be using this or some other radiator mounts that I've got laying around, but I'll be talking about that in detail and giving you a good look at it as I build the system. Here I have a Swiftech MCP35X, and that's the pump that I'll be using in the build. Above that I have an EK DDC X-Res 140, and that actually fits onto the top of the MCP35X. It's a custom pump top combined with a reservoir. I'm going to be using the Black Ice GTX Extreme Gen 2. It's a 560mm radiator. So I'll be going over the specs and giving you a good look later, but this is an incredible radiator. It's one of the most high performing radiators on the planet. Right on top there is a Bitphoenix red LED strip. Now the client has asked for a red and black theme, so I'll definitely be using red lighting, but I'm not sure if I'll be using LED strips or LEDs or cold cathodes or a combination of all of them. It just depends on how the system looks, what I have room for and what suits best, but I never know that until I've built the system and designed it all. And building a water cooling system is really a dynamic process. You actually, as much as you think you can design it first, there's a lot of things that you'll change during the build. Finally, I have 3 bottles of Primo Chill PC Ice Blood Red Coolant. This actually comes clear, and just here in the syringes I have 3 blood red dye bombs. So blood red coolant, clear tubing and a black and red theme. It is going to be an incredible build. It's going to look amazing when it's finished. Now I'm going to go through and give you a detailed look at the components and go over some of the specifications, etc. And then I'm going to start the construction of the build. Okay, now I'm just going to give you a quick look around the case. Both of the side panels are off, but you'll be getting a really good look at the case during the build anyway, because I'll be showing you each step as I'm installing the hardware, as I'm doing all the water cooling, and when I show you the finished product you'll be seeing it with the side panels on and all of that, so don't worry, you're not going to miss out on anything about the case. But yeah, if you really want all the details and in particular, you know, the exact specifications and everything, then you really need to check out the review that I did on this case, because I've done a really detailed review. It's about a 45-minute review. I go into depth on this case. Now it's time for a look at the Asus Rampage 4 formula. Because I have a review on this motherboard, I'm not going to be covering any of the specifications or going into any depth. I'm just going to give you a quick look at the aesthetics of the motherboard and cover some of the basics. So obviously it ships with Battlefield 3, and just a brief look at what comes with the motherboard. When you look at all the accessories that you get with the board, it's obvious that it's a premium board. Okay, so here's the motherboard itself. Now, I want to keep comparing it to the Rampage 4 Extreme because I've got one right here in Singularity Beast 2, my primary system. They are similar, but you know, as I said, this board is really designed a lot more for gaming because it's missing the overclocking and LN2 features that the Rampage 4 Extreme has. Not all of them, it's still got some of those features, but it just doesn't have as many. And instead of those, it has this Supreme FX3 audio chip. And yeah, I'll be covering all of this in detail in the review, so I'm not going to go over it now. But yeah, if you want to know about this board, and I'll be comparing it to the Extreme as well, so yeah, make sure you check out the review for that. So this has the X79 chipset, socket 2011, and this platform has 40 PCI Express lanes, and they all come off straight off the CPU. So those PCI Express lanes will be split over these 4 PCI Express x16 slots, and they're all PCI Express 3 slots, all the red ones. You got a couple of PCI Express x1 slots there as well. You can see there's 4 SATA ports. They all come off at the X79 chipset. There's 4 SATA 3, 4 SATA 2, I'm pretty sure. So look at all the front panel connectors, the dual BIOS button there. There's 8 4-pin PWM fan connectors. The cooling system is quite different to the Rampage 4 Extreme. So the Rampage 4 Extreme has a fan here. This has just got ambient cooling, but you know, it's still very effective because the PCH doesn't run very hot at all. So this part is exactly the same as the Extreme. And then you've got all this extra ambient cooling down this side. And the reason why that it has room for this, because the Extreme doesn't have this. This board only has 4 memory slots instead of the 8 memory slots the Extreme has, but still 4 memory slots. I mean, with 16 gig sticks of memory, it can still handle up to 64 gig of memory. And this is a gaming motherboard, so seriously, 16 gig is absolutely plenty, more than enough for gaming. So absolutely no worries there at all. You got all the diagnostic LEDs up the side there. They are very handy, and all the voltage read points. Also extremely handy is the PCI Express lane switches, on-off switches just there. I've used them many times. You've got start and reset button, you've got the LED error code poster up there. You know, there's still a lot of diagnostic features on this board. It's an absolutely excellent motherboard, very impressive. So there's a single 8-pin EPS connector up there, and then you've got a single easy plug there, which is a Molex connector. And I'll just give you a quick look at the back I/O panel. So you can see there's 4 USB 3 around the back. You've still got ROG Connect, a couple of eSATA. There's a reset button, combo PS2, 4 USB. Oh, hang on. There's 6 USB 2. The ROG Connect can be used as USB 2 as well when ROG Connect is not enabled. Single gigabit LAN, and then you've got the high quality 8-channel audio. and they look like gold-plated ports or something. Not exactly sure on that one, but yeah, I'll certainly be covering that in the review. You'll be seeing plenty more of it during the build, you know, as I'm installing it, and each time I give you a look around the build, yeah, you really will be seeing a lot of the motherboard. So, moving on to the next component. Okay, now for a detailed look at the HIS 7970s. I'm not going to cover any specifications on the 7970 in this video. Check out my review on these graphics cards for all of the details. All that I'm going to do now is give you a good look around one of the cards. I will be including performance and temperature results on these graphics cards at the end of the build log. So you'll be able to get all of the water-cooled temperature results. So the PCB is not quite black, it's like dark brown. These graphics cards are going to look very different once I've removed the air cooler, because obviously both of the air coolers are coming off. Crossfire X fingers just there, and next to them, it's very small, is a BIOS switch. And let's have a look at the connectivity. So there's DVI, HDMI, and 2 mini display ports. So there we go, the HIS 7970. And I'll be giving you another good look at these graphics cards once I've installed the water blocks onto them. Okay, now for a quick look around the box of the Intel Core i7-3930K. This CPU is manufactured using the 32nm process. It has a TDP of 130 watts. It's a socket 2011 CPU. It's clocked at 3.2 GHz, turbos to 3.8 GHz. It has an L3 cache of 12 meg, and it's a 6-core processor. And just a quick look at the CPU itself. Okay, moving on. Alright, now for a look at the 16 gig kit of Corsair Vengeance DDR3. Just a quick look around the box. It's got some nice packaging. You can read the timings off the memory just there. But I'll give you a look at that once I get the memory out of the box. Now for a look at the memory modules themselves. So green PCBs, unfortunately, but this memory is extremely well priced. Normally I go for the low profile memory in general, but I thought the aesthetics of these, you know, the heat sinks on this memory would suit the build very well. I think they're going to look great in this build, so that's why I chose the high profile version this time. So it runs at 1600 MHz, 99924, 1.5 volts. And there we go, I'll give you another look once it's up and running in the system. Alright, moving on to the Corsair Force GT 60GB SSD. So this has a maximum read of 555 megabytes per second and a maximum write of 495 megabytes per second. Max IOPS of 80K. Just a look at the write-up on the back of the box. Okay, absolutely love the colours. It's going to match up with the colour scheme of the system very well. So it's all red over the top there, and it has a brushed black aluminium base. I really wish I could have put this in a position in the build where it was in sight, like through the side window, but in the TJ11 you can hide SSD around the back side of the 5.25 inch bays, so that's where I'm going to be installing this. So unfortunately out of sight, But yeah, really nice looking SSD. Included with the SSD is a drive tray and mounting screws. Okay, moving on to the next component. Okay, now for a detailed look at the radiator fans that I'm going to be using. In the introduction I showed you the Bitfenix Spectra Pro, but I said that I changed my mind about the fans due to a change of radiator configuration. This is the Noise Blocker Black Silent Pro PK3. It's a 140mm fan. I've got 4 of them here for the 560mm radiator that I'm using. They have a 6-year warranty. They're a premium fan. I'll just cover the specifications. Just pause it there if you want to read through all of those, but I'll just give you the main ones. 1700 RPM, 1.781 static pressure, 90 CFM, and it says there 15 decibels, but at 1700 RPM it's actually 27 decibels. So there we go. Now I'll give you a look at the fan itself. So it's a really nice looking fan. It's actually black, but it's kind of transparent. It's difficult to see through, but if you shine a bright light you can actually just see through it. I think you can see it through the camera just there. Really nice, impressive looking fan. You can see it's got a very short 3-pin cable just there, and it's got 2 extension cables included, but I'll give you a look at those in a minute. Okay, I'll just remove that. I'll be giving you another look at these once they're installed on the radiator, but I'm going to be also installing dust filters over the top of these, so you won't be able to see these at all once they're on the radiator with the dust filters. Included with the fan is a silencer to prevent vibration, and unlike the normal ones which just sit on the fan, this actually has these guides here that fit in the holes, and then the mounting screws go down inside that, so that will hold it in place. And that's really the problem with these things. Normally they always continue to fall off, so great to see that they've dealt with that. Also included is a 200mm 3-pin extension cable and a 500mm 3-pin extension cable, and both of these are high quality sleeved, all black connectors. Also included is some mounting hardware, and this is very impressive. You get these screws which look to be about 35mm M3s, and then nuts to go on the other side. They're all black, and then you also get these rubber guides. You put this into the fan frame, and the nut then goes and tightens on the other side. So yeah, that's a completely silenced configuration, no vibration whatsoever. Very impressive fans. Moving on to the next component. Okay, these are the filters that I'm using on the radiator. So these will go on the fan side, so they'll prevent dust from going into the fans and the radiator itself. So they're 140mm magnetic filter, but I'll be screwing them, actually bolting through these, through the fan and into the radiator, but I'll show you that configuration later in the build log. So they're a Silverstone dust filter. Okay, just a more detailed look at the PC Ice blood red coolant that I'm using. So as I mentioned, it comes clear, and you get these syringes which are dye bombs included, and this is non-conductive coolant. Just give you a look at the write-up on the back of the bottle. Okay, just pause if you want to read that. It says here it has excellent lubrication properties to increase pump life, corrosive inhibitors, All the normal stuff, antimicrobial agents, 3-year shelf life. So that's about it for the coolant. I'll give you another look as I'm filling the loop and once the system is up and running. Okay, I'm going to have to leave this part of the build log here. You can see that I've got the side panels off the case and the motherboard tray out. It's all ready to go for the beginning of the construction. Part 2 of the build log will follow directly on. I'll continue having a close look at the rest of the components, and then I'll be starting the construction of the build. There's so much more exciting stuff to come in this build log. This is only the very beginning. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like and favorite if you want to see more.